You can spend years investing in a relationship with someone who has an avoidant attachment style. You can be dependable, emotionally present, and give them your time, patience, and care. Yet the moment you need that same level of commitment from them, everything seems to change. As soon as you ask them to meet you halfway, they begin to pull away. Suddenly, you're left questioning yourself, wondering what mistake you made. The truth is, you probably didn't do anything wrong. The painful reality is that you were never the center of what they valued most. Avoidant people don't necessarily place their greatest loyalty in relationships. Their deepest commitment is often directed somewhere else entirely. Once you understand what that is, everything begins to make sense. You stop blaming yourself. You stop exhausting yourself trying to earn their love. You stop defending behavior that keeps hurting you because you finally recognize the pattern for what it is. And that pattern isn't really about you. One of the biggest misunderstandings about avoidant attachment is the belief that avoidants simply don't care about closeness. That's not accurate. Many of them crave connection just as much as anyone else. The difference is that something else consistently takes priority. Once you recognize what that priority is, you can approach these relationships with much greater clarity instead of confusion. If you're dealing with an avoidant partner, friend, or family member, or if you recognize these tendencies in yourself, stay with me, because this perspective can completely change the way you see these relationships. Leave a comment and type the word freedom if you've ever felt abandoned by someone who insisted they cared about you. I'd also love to hear which of these patterns feels most familiar to your own experience. Share your story below so others know they're not facing this alone. Let me know what stands out to you the most. So, what are avoidant people truly loyal to? It's a question that rarely gets asked. Most people simply label them as emotionally unavailable or afraid of commitment. While that may seem true on the surface, it doesn't explain what's really happening underneath. Avoidant individuals are capable of intense loyalty. The problem is that their strongest loyalty is usually directed toward protecting their independence. Their sense of freedom becomes almost sacred. It's the one thing they will defend above almost everything else. For them, independence isn't just having personal space or making their own decisions. It represents safety. It means never feeling trapped, never depending too much on another person, and never allowing someone else to have too much influence over their emotions or choices. The moment they realize someone is becoming deeply important to them, an internal alarm often goes off. In their mind, emotional importance creates vulnerability, and vulnerability feels like losing control. Instead of moving closer, they instinctively move away. Sometimes it happens gradually. Other times it happens almost overnight. They convince themselves they're simply protecting their peace, but in reality, they're protecting their independence. That commitment to independence often becomes stronger than the relationship itself. It outweighs your feelings, the promises they've made, and even the connection they genuinely enjoy. You may have experienced this while dating an avoidant. At first, everything feels exciting. Conversations flow naturally, the chemistry is strong, and they seem genuinely interested. Then, after a while, something changes. Their replies become slower. They stop making as much effort to see you. Their enthusiasm fades, and you're left searching for answers. What actually happened is often much simpler than you think. You became emotionally significant. Once your presence started to matter, they unconsciously associated that closeness with losing their freedom. Their response wasn't necessarily because they stopped caring. It was because they became uncomfortable with how much they cared. If you express your frustration, they may tell you that you're asking for too much or becoming overly dependent. But beneath those words is another message. They're afraid that your growing importance threatens the independence they work so hard to protect. The same pattern appears in friendships. Maybe you've always been there when they needed someone. You listened, supported them, and never hesitated to help during difficult times. They appreciated it in the moment. But when your life became difficult and you needed them, they seemed impossible to reach. Calls went unanswered, plans were canceled, their support disappeared. When you finally bring it up, they often become defensive. They remind you that they have their own responsibilities and can't carry someone else's emotional needs. Yet underneath that reaction is the same fear. The friendship has become emotionally meaningful, and they instinctively create distance to prove to themselves more than anyone that they don't rely on anyone. This is one of the defining patterns of avoidant attachment. Once you recognize it, it's hard to ignore. You begin to understand that their behavior isn't a reflection of your value or your ability to be loved. It's the result of an internal struggle between wanting intimacy and protecting independence. What makes this dynamic so painful isn't that avoidant people are bad. In fact, many are thoughtful, intelligent, kind, and highly capable individuals. The challenge is that their fear of losing control often becomes stronger than their ability to remain emotionally consistent. That's why the relationship starts repeating the same cycle. You get closer, they distance themselves. You make a greater effort, and they retreat even more. You step back to give them room, they return for a while, and before long, the entire pattern repeats. Meanwhile, you're constantly questioning yourself. Should you chase them? Should you back off? Should you simply accept that this is who they are? The difficult truth is that none of those strategies solve the real problem. The issue isn't about texting habits, communication styles, or giving enough space. The deeper issue is that their greatest loyalty is directed toward protecting something that may always come before the relationship. It's also important to remember that avoidant attachment exists on a spectrum. Some people only show mild avoidant traits. They may need extra independence, but they're still capable of compromise, emotional presence, and making their loved ones a priority. Others are much more deeply avoidant. For them, protecting their freedom consistently comes first. The question then becomes one only you can answer. Can you build a healthy relationship with someone whose first instinct is always to protect themselves? Can you accept that when difficult choices arise, they may repeatedly choose their comfort, their autonomy, and their independence over the relationship the two of you share? For some people, that's a reality they can accept. For others, it becomes a cost that's simply too high. Some people can live with that kind of relationship. They may even have avoidant tendencies themselves, so they naturally understand the need for distance and independence. Maybe they don't expect constant emotional closeness, and that arrangement works for them. But for most people, it doesn't. Most of us want to feel important to the person we love. We want to know that we matter enough for someone to make an effort, adjust, and occasionally put the relationship first. That's where the heartbreak begins. You're trying to love someone who struggles to receive love the way you need to give it. You're reaching for closeness with someone who instinctively fears it. You're trying to build a future with someone who's always keeping one foot near the exit. So what can you actually do if you're involved with an avoidant person? The first step is to stop making their behavior about you. This is one of the hardest but most important shifts. Their withdrawal isn't proof that you're unworthy. It isn't evidence that you're asking for too much or that something is wrong with you. Their instinct to create distance comes from patterns that existed long before you entered their life. Their nervous system learned that closeness equals danger, and that belief wasn't created by you. The next step is setting healthy boundaries. Avoidant people often push limits without even realizing it. They'll see how much distance they can create while still expecting you to remain available. That's why you have to be honest about what you need. Maybe you need dependable communication. Maybe you need consistency. Maybe you simply need to know where you stand. Whatever those needs are, express them clearly. And if those needs can't be met, be prepared to step away. Boundaries only work when you're willing to follow through. If someone learns that you'll settle for occasional attention while ignoring your own needs, they'll often continue offering the bare minimum. Then ask yourself an even harder question. Is this relationship truly sustainable? Are you accepting who this person is today, or are you holding on to hope that they'll eventually become someone different? The truth is that deep avoidant patterns rarely disappear overnight. People can absolutely become more self-aware. Therapy, personal growth, and intentional work can make a huge difference. But their natural instinct to protect their independence may always be something they have to manage. That means you have to decide whether you can genuinely accept the relationship as it is, not as you wish it could become. Can you live with inconsistency? Can you handle periods of emotional distance? Can you rely on someone whose first instinct during conflict may be to disconnect? If your answer is yes, then at least you're making that choice with full awareness instead of false hope. Something remarkable happens once you truly accept this reality. You stop chasing. You stop trying to convince someone of your value. You stop explaining away behavior that continues to hurt you. And in letting go, you begin to reclaim your own confidence. You realize your worth was never dependent on whether they could show up for you. Their emotional limitations don't define your value. You deserve someone who's excited to choose you, someone who makes you feel secure instead of uncertain, someone who doesn't leave you wondering where you stand. Ironically, that's often the moment everything changes. Sometimes the avoidant person notices your absence and begins confronting fears they spent years avoiding. They realize they may actually lose someone meaningful, and that realization can motivate genuine self-reflection. Other times, you move on completely and discover a relationship with someone who naturally meets you with the same level of care, effort, and commitment you've been giving all along. But neither outcome happens until you stop clinging to what isn't working. Another important piece of this puzzle is understanding the anxious-avoidant dynamic. Many relationships involve one partner who constantly seeks reassurance, while the other instinctively creates distance. The anxious partner usually carries the emotional weight of the relationship. They're researching attachment styles, improving communication, giving space when asked, trying every possible solution. Meanwhile, the avoidant partner often responds by saying they're too emotional, too demanding, or expecting too much. But most of the time, the anxious partner isn't asking for anything unreasonable. They're asking for reliability, consistency, honesty, and reassurance that they matter. Those aren't unrealistic expectations. They're healthy relationship needs. Unfortunately, an avoidant nervous system often experiences those requests as pressure instead of love. The closer someone gets, the stronger the urge becomes to escape. That cycle can continue for years. One person works harder, the other withdraws further.
Eventually, the anxious partner burns out or reaches a breaking point. Then the avoidant partner seems shocked that the relationship has fallen apart. That's why understanding these patterns matters so much.
If you're anxiously attached, it's important to realize that you cannot heal someone else's avoidance through love alone. You can't convince them they're safe simply by being patient enough. You can't prove your value strongly enough to erase fears that were formed long before you arrived. Sometimes the healthiest decision is to stop fighting reality. Accept the relationship for what it truly is, or choose to walk away. Otherwise, you risk spending years trying to change someone who isn't ready to change themselves. A question that comes up often is whether avoidant people actually love. The answer is yes, they absolutely can. The challenge is that their love is often limited by how safe they feel. They may feel deeply connected when there's plenty of space between you. They may express affection when there are few emotional expectations. But as intimacy grows and the relationship requires greater vulnerability, their protective instincts often take over. It's almost like they have an internal comfort zone for closeness. Once the relationship moves beyond that invisible limit, they unconsciously begin cooling off and creating distance. Most aren't even aware they're doing it because it's an automatic survival response. That doesn't necessarily mean their feelings aren't genuine. It means those feelings compete with an equally powerful need to protect themselves. Once you understand that, you can decide whether the level of intimacy they're capable of offering is enough for you. For many people, it isn't. Most people want a relationship where both partners are fully invested, emotionally present, and equally committed. If that's the kind of love you're looking for, someone with deeply unresolved avoidant patterns may simply not be the right match. And there's nothing wrong with admitting that. If you're listening to this and recognizing yourself as the avoidant person, this awareness is actually a valuable first step. But here's something worth considering. Your commitment to independence may feel like protection, but it could also be preventing the very connection you're searching for. Avoiding dependence might seem safe, yet it often keeps genuine intimacy out of reach. That doesn't mean becoming emotionally dependent on everyone. It simply means becoming curious about your reactions. The next time you feel the urge to withdraw, pause for a moment. Ask yourself whether you truly need space or whether your nervous system is reacting automatically to vulnerability. Sometimes space is healthy. Sometimes you're simply running from closeness. Learning to tell the difference can change everything. It also helps to ask yourself some difficult questions. What am I actually afraid of? Am I afraid of being controlled? Of losing myself? Of being rejected? Of eventually being abandoned? Most avoidant behavior grows from fear, not from a lack of love. Until those fears are explored, the same relationship patterns tend to repeat over and over. Many avoidant people appear successful, independent, and confident from the outside, yet privately struggle with profound loneliness. They build walls so carefully that eventually those walls keep everyone out, including the people they secretly wish they could trust. Deep inside is often someone who desperately wants love, but has learned to believe that needing another person is dangerous. So they keep people at a distance. Then they wonder why lasting relationships never seem to stay. If you recognize yourself in this, consider giving yourself the chance to heal. Therapy, self-reflection, and honest emotional work can make a tremendous difference. Start asking yourself what you're really protecting and whether the danger you fear still exists, or whether your mind is responding to old wounds that no longer define your present. Understanding all of this is valuable, but applying it is what truly changes your life. The first practical step is simple. Stop chasing. Every time an avoidant person creates distance and you immediately run after them, the cycle becomes stronger. They retreat, you pursue. They retreat even further, and you push harder. Before long, both of you are trapped in a pattern that keeps repeating without ever creating the closeness you're both actually searching for. So instead of chasing, try doing the opposite. Allow the distance to exist without rushing to close it. Resist the urge to send another message, ask for reassurance, or constantly check where you stand. It won't feel comfortable at first, but learning to sit with that uncertainty is incredibly important. Ironically, when you stop pursuing someone who keeps pulling away, the entire dynamic begins to change. The next step is being honest about your needs. Don't expect them to read between the lines or magically understand what you're feeling. Say it directly. Tell them you need regular communication. Tell them you need reassurance. Tell them you need to feel like you're important in the relationship. Then pay close attention, not just to what they say, but to what they consistently do. Their behavior will reveal whether they're truly capable of meeting those needs. It also helps to set a personal deadline. Decide how long you're willing to wait for meaningful change. Without that boundary, it's easy to stay trapped in hope for years, believing that next month will be different or that they're almost ready. Meanwhile, life keeps moving, and you may wake up years later in exactly the same situation. Giving yourself a timeline protects you from remaining stuck indefinitely. Another thing you can't ignore is your own healing. Work on yourself. If therapy is available, consider it. Explore your own attachment style. Ask yourself why emotionally unavailable people feel so familiar or attractive. Strengthen your confidence and your self-worth. Otherwise, even if this relationship ends, you may unknowingly recreate the same pattern with someone else. And perhaps the hardest step of all is grieving the relationship for what it truly is, instead of what you wish it could become. Let go of the fantasy that loving harder will eventually make them emotionally available. Accepting reality is painful, but it's far healthier than spending years waiting for someone to become a different person. Once you've accepted who they are, you can honestly decide whether that's enough for you. There's another point that's worth discussing because many people confuse these situations. How do you tell the difference between someone who's avoidant and someone who's simply not interested? From the outside, both can seem distant. Both may pull away. But there's an important difference. An avoidant person usually creates a repeating cycle. They'll disappear for a while, then return. There are moments when they're deeply engaged, emotionally open, and surprisingly affectionate. They might send a heartfelt message late at night, open up about something personal, or suddenly seem completely invested, only to withdraw again shortly afterward. Someone who simply isn't interested usually doesn't create that pattern. Instead, they slowly fade out and become consistently unavailable until they're gone. Another clue is their relationship history. Avoidant people often repeat the same behaviors with multiple partners. If you learn about their past relationships, you'll often notice similar patterns of closeness followed by distance. Someone who just isn't interested in you may have no problem being emotionally present with another partner. Looking at the overall pattern rather than isolated moments usually gives you the clearest answer. Another misconception is confusing avoidant attachment with introversion. These are completely different things. Being introverted simply means someone recharges by spending time alone. Introverts can still be dependable, emotionally available, and deeply committed. They may need quiet time, but that doesn't stop them from maintaining healthy relationships. Avoidant attachment isn't about personality, it's about fear. It's the ongoing struggle between wanting connection while simultaneously fearing what that closeness might cost. The same misunderstanding happens with people who claim they're just busy. Yes, many avoidant individuals lead full, demanding lives. They're often ambitious, productive, and highly successful. But sometimes that constant busyness also becomes a convenient way to avoid emotional vulnerability. Filling every hour with work, projects, or responsibilities can create distance from intimacy. So when someone repeatedly says they're too busy for a relationship, listen carefully. Sometimes it's genuinely true. Other times, it's another way of avoiding emotional dependence without having to admit that's what's really happening. Social media adds another layer to this. Many avoidant people seem extremely active online. They're constantly posting, interacting with followers, building audiences, or sharing pieces of their lives with strangers. Yet at the same time, the people closest to them may feel completely shut out. Why? Because online interaction offers connection without requiring true vulnerability. You control what people see. You choose what to reveal. You can appear deeply connected while keeping your real emotions protected.